surprise to me as it is to you. Before we begin, I just would like to say that I'm a huge nerd, and can we appreciate that Hogwarts Legacy is coming out in May on the PS4? And the reason I bring this up is because today, for our trigger, we are unboxing my personal wand. Ollivander. I love that sound. If you guys have gone on Pottermore and been sorted into a house, let me know in the comments below what house you were sorted into. I am truly, truly curious. So me and my friend decided that we were gonna get sorted into a house. We're gonna retake the test, and whatever we were sorted into, we had to stick with for life. So when we do play Hogwarts Legacy, we have to start out in that house. We're gonna transfer our Pottermore account onto our new game. Anyway, so we retook the quiz, and I really wanted to get Slytherin just because Severus Snape is a Slytherin and he's literally my favorite character. But I did not get Slytherin. And my friend was sorted into the perfect house for her. She is 100% a Hufflepuff. She is patient and kind and positive, I guess you could say. She's definitely a Hufflepuff, and that's what she got, and she has to stick with it for life. Just look at this. There's the map. I think it's a map. Hogsmeade. I don't want to refill my wand yet. So, I got this for my birthday in October, last October, and I haven't really pulled it out since because I want to keep it in perfect shape. But I love that it gives you a map of, I believe it's the park, Universal Studios. And you can use this at different locations at Universal Studios, and it lights things up and makes things move, which is so cool. It's the expensive wand. Dot, 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 dot. Very, very cool. So, if you had to guess what house I was placed in, what would you have guessed? I guess you wouldn't know since you don't know me personally, but What's a good spell? The first spell I would use. Imperio. Just kidding, that's an unforgivable spell. I should have been placed in Slytherin, but I was not. So I was placed in Ravenclaw, which honestly I don't agree, but I do have to stick with it for life now. So that is the choice I have made. I am a Ravenclaw now. And I always roll my eyes when people say, oh yeah, I would be in Ravenclaw. Yeah, right. Do you wish you were that smart? Anyway, I am in there against my will, so I am Ravenclaw now. Alright, are we done geeking out on Harry Potter? And did you want to jump into stories? I know, I've really talked your ear off. Let's jump in. Okay guys, this first story is called The Girl Wouldn't Stop Laughing When She Climbed Out of the Trees and Tried to Break Into My Car at 4 a.m. That sounds scary. Almost a year ago, I was an opener at a resort, clocking in before 5 a.m. each day. The resort is located inside of an affluent neighborhood in a very wealthy town/suburb. Employees had to park in one of two parking lots at either ends of the property, and the lot I chose was adjacent to a long and windy road outside the resort, which led to the rest of the neighborhood. The road and resort were separated by a short range of brush and trees that no one ever walked through. I'd arrived one morning per usual and put the car into the park with my headlights still on. The lights in the lot weren't ever on in the morning since no one else really showed up before 6 a.m. when the sun was out. So it was usually always dark at the start of my walk, save for security. I was one of the first employees to arrive on the property each morning and was usually completely alone in this particular parking lot at this time. This morning didn't seem to be any different. I had my hand literally at my keys, my brain in the process to turn off my car, when I noticed a young girl, maybe like 14 or 15 years old, come scampering. Her body language was the exact definition: run with quick light steps, especially through fear or excitement. She came scampering through the span of trees that separates the resort from the outside road. She was directly in front of my car, and my headlights illuminated a clear view of her in the pitch black. She looked like she was in high school, had long blonde hair, and was wearing a jacket with pajamas maybe. Like she'd just walked out of a house. One thing about her that bothered me was that she would not stop laughing and smiling. I couldn't hear her laughing from outside the car, but she was visually giggling at something I wasn't aware of or could see, and it was unnatural. She occasionally glanced behind her as if someone else were there waiting, away from the headlights. She then waved at me like it were a normal gesture at this time, and then immediately ran to my passenger side door. This all happened in a matter of seconds, and I wasn't really sure what was even happening besides my anxiety spiking. I know I simultaneously yanked the auxiliary from my phone to shut whatever song had been playing off while grabbing for the lock button. I remember feeling panic for never remembering if it's up or down to lock when the girl began pulling violently and incessantly on the door handle on the passenger side. I realized because I didn't turn my car off, it stayed locked. That's good. She began pounding on the window, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs for her to leave before pressing on my horn. I could see her laughing outside like this were some type of game, as if I were a silly friend not letting her in as a joke. After a few seconds, she stopped the pounding and trying to open my car door. Her face as she started to walk away from my car back the way she came. She waved at me again before squeezing through the trees out of the view of my headlights. That is so scary. Holy shit. I would be mildly traumatized by this situation. This whole encounter confused me almost as much as it scared me. Most people I told the story to just chalked it up to her being on drugs, but that narrative hasn't felt right to me despite her behavior. Maybe she was just being an extremely out-of-touch teenager whose parents needed a firmer grip on her. I don't think so. My first thought was possibly human trafficking, but I'm not sure if that would fit this scenario as I'm not the most well-versed with the subject. I told someone when I made it to the LP, but they didn't seem to care much. I did not call the police, and I regret that. I'll never get out of my brain though how fucking off the feeling was watching a stranger, seemingly alone, pop out from the trees in the darkness, laughing, and then try to violently enter your car in an empty parking lot. I do think the possibility of someone else being present the whole time is a lot more scary, and I wonder who else was there and where exactly. Yeah, and that is the end of that story, and whoa, that is insane. Honestly, I'm so glad that door was locked. Imagine, what would she have done had the door been unlocked? Would she have attacked this person or just laughed in their face? Or maybe there was someone else there. Maybe they would have robbed this person. You never know, but that is really scary, and I'm glad this person's okay. Wow. This next story is called Face to Face with a Shadow Person. I have had a few paranormal experiences in my life, but this is probably the weirdest of the bunch. I'm in my early 40s now, but when this happened, I was 14, and it was the summer of 1995. It was the late afternoon, around 4 p.m., and still very light. I was standing near the back door in the kitchen of my mom and dad's house. My dog stood in front of me, and I had just put some scraps from my tea into his bowl. Suddenly, he lowered his head, bared his teeth, his hackles stood up, and he growled. He was a wire-haired fox terrier, Jack Russell cross, but he was not food protective, and was usually very placid and mild. So this was very unusual behavior for him. I stood up straight and noticed my shadow on the wall near the door getting darker until it was beyond black. It was devoid of color. I realized my dog was not protecting his food. He was scared. The shadow then stepped away from the wall as fully as 3D being and was only a feet away from me. My dog ran away, but I was frozen with fear. Back then, I was around 5'4", and this thing was the same height as me. It had no facial features and a smooth outline. It had shape and form, but at the same time was so dark that it seemed like a void. It had no eyes that I could see, but I could sense that it was looking at me. This being and I stood and stared at each other for what felt like 5 minutes, but really must have been mere seconds. I was terrified, and it seemed shocked that I could see it. It then raised its arms up so its hands were above its head, then shot up into the ceiling into a puff of smoke, the same color as the being. The smoke dissipated as soon as it had appeared, and I could move again. I had no idea what I had seen, as I had never heard of anything like a living shadow. Also, I didn't know anyone who had seen something like that. At the time, the internet wasn't what it is now, and we didn't even have a computer to access anyway. I spent many years worrying that I had some kind of mental illness or something. Then, years later, I found a website where other people had since at a friend's house, and though creepy, in comparison, that one was nowhere near as scary. And that is the end of that ghost story. What would you do if a shadow stepped out of the wall and was staring at you with a featureless face that had no eyes? Do you think you'd freeze? Or would you run? Or would you fight? Okay, this next story is mildly creepy. It is called "A Guy I Talked to on a Dating Site Showed Up at My Job." That's never cool. Okay. This happened about 9 years ago, and sometimes it comes to my mind. It creeps me out. So, I was on an adult dating site, one of the fetish types. I know, don't judge me. I was just looking for some fun, lol. Anyway, I was stupid and gave out more information than I should have. I was chatting with a guy. He had asked me at some point what I did for work. At the time, I was working at McDonald's, so I told him. He asked me which one. I stupidly told him which one. We chatted off and on. We hadn't been chatting for too long. I also stupidly gave him my phone number at some point. He would talk about how he wanted to meet me on my break and have some fun on my break. I told him no thanks. I don't bring my lifestyle to my job. Anyway, so I checked my messages just before I was due to clock out of work. Luckily, I did. He mentioned that he was at my job and told me what he ordered. I think it was like a Big Mac meal. Anyway, I was like, okay, well, don't expect me to do anything with you. I'm not interested. He then got upset and was not accepting that I was not interested. I was also scared because I had sent him a face picture of myself, but I had never received one from him. I really wasn't too interested in him, so I decided I didn't need a face picture since I likely wasn't going to meet up with him. His interests weren't what I was looking for, and I have a hard time straight up saying I'm not interested and just slowly starting to ghost whoever I had no interest in. I understand that feeling. Now, luckily, I hadn't told him my work schedule, so he didn't know that I was about to clock out. So, after clocking out, I told one of my managers that I was on a dating site and some guy just showed up to my work and I have no idea what he looks like and that I was going to hang out in the back in the break room for a bit. Luckily, she didn't judge me and just was like, oh, okay. So I waited about half an hour before I left. I didn't have a car at the time and had to walk home and was afraid he would see me and try to pick me up in his car. Luckily, no one followed me, so I was in the clear. So, creepy guy, let's never meet. I don't think he ever messaged me, or I ended up blocking him or something. I don't know if this really is all that creepy, but it creeps me out that some random person just decided that he would show up to my job and expect me to want to meet up with him. So yeah, now I just give a vague response as to where I work now. I don't work in the same town I live in, so it would be hard to pinpoint my exact location. This opened my eyes and made me more aware of the information I give out to strangers. I'm glad she learned a lesson from this situation. Also glad that she didn't come in contact with him physically, you know. That would have been awkward as hell. And then having to reject him in person, yikes. She dodged a bullet there. So this next story is called "My Dog May Have Saved Me." And I love these stories about all these people's animals saving them in these scary situations. I love it. Honestly, I really, once I move, I'm gonna get a bigger dog. I'm thinking I want a German Shepherd, possibly. Just because living alone, you're gonna want some protection, and I think having to attack anybody or another animal. So I'm thinking German Shepherd, but Doberman Pinschers are really cute, so maybe that too. I can't decide. Okay. This happened a long time ago. That's my pug trying to get into the room. I don't know if my mic got that. Okay. This happened a long time ago, about 10 years or so, but I never forgot about it, and it still gives me the chills. By the way, I'm not a native English speaker, so I apologize for my mistakes. A 33-year-old female, was in my early 20s. At the time, I had a female dog named Nina, a boxer. She passed away when she was 8 from lung cancer. I miss her a lot. Rest in peace, Nina. That's really sad. Nina was very energetic, so I took her on long walks around the neighborhood, usually at the end of the day around 4 to 6 p.m. when it wasn't too hot, but not dark either. One thing you must know about Nina is that she loved people. She did not get along with other dogs, but every time she saw someone walking by us, she would shake her tail and wanted to get closer. One day, we went on our walk as usual. Everything was fine for most of it. I saw a few other people walking their dogs and an old couple sitting in front of their house chatting. And then, when we were alone, Nina suddenly started growling. One thing I didn't mention, I'm graduated in biology and specialized in animal behavior. At the time the story happened, I was finishing college. So yeah, I used to pay a lot of attention to my dog's behaviors and had quite a lot of knowledge on dog behavior because it was my favorite subject in the area. Dogs can see movement much better than us, so things like an eyebrow raise or a little tension on the shoulders they can easily pick up. So of course, a dog growling doesn't sound that weird. Nina did growl to other dogs and cats when she saw them, but this was different. It was very low, and all the fur on her back was up. Her entire behavior was alarming, and then I noticed she was looking back while growling. I looked behind me, and in the distance, like a block away, I saw a man. This made me even more alert because Nina never growled at anyone in the street. She never stopped walking by my side or tried to pull away, but she kept this low growl and kept looking at this man. I started to freak out and turned the next block. She stopped for a second, but when we reached the next corner, she started growling again, and I saw he was there again. He didn't try to talk or call me, and his expression was serious, kind of emotionless. I kept walking in random patterns, and he was always there. That man was definitely following me. At some point, our distance started to shrink, and Nina's growling was getting stronger. Oh, that's alarming. So when I turned the next corner, I just started running while he couldn't see me. I ran down about 4 blocks in the direction of an area I knew had more traffic and people around. I stopped to get my breath and looked behind me. He was far away right in the corner where I started running, just there, standing and looking at me. Nina was looking at him, still with her alarm posture. After a minute, he turned around and went away in the same direction, and at that moment, Nina finally relaxed. That is so creepy. I kept paying attention to Nina's behavior the entire way back to the house, but she was just her normal, happy self. I told the story to my parents and a few neighbors, and no one seemed to know of any man that looked like him. I never saw that man again, and Nina never behaved like that again either, so I'll never know who he was or why he was following me, but I definitely do not regret trusting Nina's instincts. So, people, please pay attention to your pet's behaviors as much as you can. It's not about a supernatural sixth sense. They can actually feel, see, and hear things better than us, and there's no behavior that happens for no reason. There's always a reason. Stay safe, everyone. and that's the end of that story. And it ended on a very positive note. Stay safe, and if you do have a dog, be mindful of their reaction to their environment. That was a good story, and I'm glad she's okay. That man definitely sounds like he was following her. So creepy. I hope nothing like this happens to me when I get my big dog. Okay, so that is the end of this creepy stories video. I hope you enjoyed these short tales. I know I always do. And also, I want to bring up that I just passed 1,000 subscribers, guys, and I didn't mention it in the last video, but I would like to mention it now. That is insane. 1,000 people watch these videos. That's crazy. If all of you were standing in front of me, I wouldn't be able to talk. I would say hi and I'd run into the corner. I'm very introverted. I am so grateful that you guys like these whisper creepy stories, and for the few of you